SpongeBob SquarePants is a series that needs no introduction, but I'm gonna do it anyway, starting in 1999 and still going strong in 2024. Okay, maybe that's an overstatement, but he's still around. SpongeBob is basically Nick's Mickey Mouse. He ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And with Nick having such a hit on their hands, they were obviously going to put SpongeBob's yellow porous face on anything known to man. One of those things being the subject of today's video games. SpongeBob's first video game appearance was in Nicktoons Racing in 1999, where he and Patrick were two of the racers in that game. SpongeBob's first solo outing wouldn't be until 2001 with the release of SpongeBob SquarePants Legend of the Lost Spatula, exclusively for the Game Boy Color, a system I'm sure you're only hearing about thanks to this video. As you'd expect for a licensed game, it was released to pretty ho-hum reviews, and has slowly been forgotten as the years go on, with people having way more nostalgia for the actually good SpongeBob games. However, I was feeling a little quirky and decided to give the game another try. I had already tried it a few times and given up, so let's check out Legend of the Lost Spatula in 2024 to see if... No. Legend of the Lost Spatula begins with SpongeBob riding his little bike before stumbling upon an oven with sponge gar on it. He tells Mr. Krabs about what he saw, which amazes him. Apparently, the oven is an entrance to the Dutchman's underworld, which contains the golden spatula, once owned by the world's greatest fry cook. He tells SpongeBob to go looking for it, saying that it'll make him the greatest fry cook in the world, while in actuality he just wants it for, as you'd expect, money. Jesus, Mr. Krabs, you're gonna send one of your employees to the underworld and not even let them keep the treasure? Now, we begin the game, where we already run into some problems. SpongeBob himself controls just fine, but due to screen crunch, you can't see what's around you when jumping, and thus, it's very easy to miss jumps or go into obstacles or enemies you weren't trying to. And I know that it doesn't sound like a major issue at first, but as you play the game more and more, you get to see that it's actually one of the biggest, especially since SpongeBob's health is so low. Your health is represented by your pants. If you get hit once, you're in your undies now. Get hit another time, you're fully in the nude and you have lost a life. This would be fine in any other platformer. It heavily reminds me of the mushrooms in the Super Mario games, but as I said, there are way too many hazards, which means unless you're super careful, you will be dying a lot in this game, which is super annoying because this game isn't exactly generous with checkpoints. You can get SpongeBob's hall monitor uniform from that one episode as a power-up, which allows you to take an extra hit point, but it's only available at one point early in the game, and I sadly missed my shot. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why not just fight back against the enemies? You can, but your methods of doing so aren't very good. You fight via weapons. There are about 8, but I only got the necessary ones, which were about 4. There's a bubble wand, a spatula, a net launcher, and a jellyfish net. The net's only useful for getting smaller enemies, and it doesn't even really do a good job at that, so it was the one I used the least often. Then there's the net launcher, which is ridiculously overpowered, which even the devs knew since it has an ammo count. The spatula is also just an inferior version of it. It goes straight for a little bit before dipping downwards. And finally, there's the bubble wand, which was the worst one. The wand travels upward immediately, so if you're attacking an enemy, you usually have to get very close to them, and when you do hit them, instead of just getting rid of the enemy right there, it causes them to run away, sometimes right into your direction. Now, with some of the enemies, there's no issues, but with others, you can get hit and lose health, which is the exact opposite of what you want to happen. Not only that, but another really annoying thing is that certain sections of the map, aka progress, is locked until you get certain weapons, and the game gives you absolutely no clues on how to find them. The jellyfishing net is found in this cave in a large chest, but the spatula and net launcher were found in completely random areas of the world. So, the main character doesn't feel fun to play. But what about the game itself? It's a game made for very young children. So even if the game's not fun to control, I bet this game has a low difficulty that makes it tolerable. No. The main objective of the game is to get to the Dutchman's underworld, and SpongeBob accomplishes this by collecting knobs that open the oven seen at the beginning of the game. The game is very cryptic about where to look. I don't recall the game giving me any hints about anything. Thank God game guides exist, or else this video wouldn't have happened. You get the knobs via a boss fight at the end of 3 separate areas following some of the tedious platforming I mentioned earlier. Jellyfish Fields, the Undersea Desert, and some forest area with a very long name. Jellyfish Fields is unlocked by default, but you need to get the spatula and net launcher respectively in order to get to the next 2. As for the boss fights themselves, they suck. The first one in Jellyfish Fields is simple enough. It's just a large jellyfish that goes back and forth before lunging in on SpongeBob. Just get it with the bubble wand enough times and you're golden. The other 2 are way more annoying though. The one in the desert is a cowboy that shoots out some fireballs, and you need to get him with the spatula enough times that he gets a stomachache and dies. The game doesn't really give you an indication to use the spatula, but then again, you need it to unlock this area, so I guess you could just call me stupid. But I am not with the forest boss. It's a muscular fish that jumps into the trees before launching some nuts at you. At least I think they're nuts. And the way to defeat him is so ridiculous, I don't see any kid figuring this out. So, when he's in the tree, you're supposed to use the bubble wand to hit him. Then, when he's down, switch to the net launcher and you get him that way. Seriously, who would have guessed that? So, now that I have the knobs, SpongeBob is able to head into the oven where he goes to rock bottom. What? Which conveniently has a portal to the underworld attached to it. Oh. So, we enter the underworld, and it's probably one of the easiest parts of the game. You'd think with the BS in the game so far, this would probably be a nightmare to get through, but no, pretty easy. The final boss is also pretty underwhelming and easy to defeat, which, hey, I'm not complaining about. It's the Flying Dutchman, as you'd expect. Just use the spatula to stuff his mouth, and SpongeBob gets the golden spatula, becoming the greatest fry cook, and also getting Mr. Krabs rich at the same time. Somehow. That was absolutely terrible. The game is a very weak start to SpongeBob's overall decent video game lineage. I would not recommend this game to anyone, even the most die-hard SpongeBob fans. It has solid visuals and a nice soundtrack, but that is the game's only positives. It's not bad, it's not even tear your hair out and start cursing out a storm bad. It's just not fun.
That was bad. I gotta be more positive next time. What? Do you think there's gonna be some sort of joke at the end? I've already had a bad enough day as is. Just get out.